Okay, Oscar nuts. The race is such a cliffhanger that we had to call in the two smartest Oscarologists on the planet, Adnan Virk from ESPN and our own Chris Beachum, our managing editor of Gold Derby. Let's start with you, Adnan, and let's just, because we'll get to that crazy Best Picture race, which is the biggest question. But let's just right now look at the four acting races. We've seen the same stars prevail at SAG, at BAFTA, at Critics' Choice. Is there any chance of an upset in there? And if so, where?
Well, first off, Tom, thanks for buttering me up, because the last time I was with you guys, I was on a hot streak, and ever since then, you've jinxed me. So now I do need to come back and get my mojo.
Good.
Hang out here on Gold.
We're winning too many effing experts contests. Time we took it down a notch or two, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You guys have humbled me since then. In answer to your question, I think actor is a lock, Gary Oldman. I would love to say there's a little bit of an undercurrent for Timothée Chalamet, but I really don't think so. I think it's a nice performance from him, and he's got more to come. But I do think Oldman is obviously the lock, as you mentioned. He's winning everything. Actress absolutely is Frances McDormand. That's the absolute no doubter. Supporting actor, I love Willem Dafoe. He's such a wonderful guy, and he's a terrific actor. He's been such a good actor for so long. I'd love to see him recognized. But the fact the Florida Project only got the one nomination, that feels like that's the victory itself, and Rockwell can't be slowed down. And supporting actress, I'm still amazed, and we discussed this last time, Chris. We said that, and I love Janie. She's a villain from you-know-where, and she's so much fun, and she's wickedly funny, and The Bird, and the breaking through the fourth wall and all that. But there are characters rather one note, and I really think Laurie Metcalf deserves the Oscar, because that's more of a three-dimensional performance. But Janie's winning everything, so I'd love to see Laurie Metcalf could still win for Lady Bird. I really think she should, but it feels like Allison Janney's got it in the bag.
We've only seen one person in all the years since Critics' Choice and SAG Awards started that won everything: Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, SAG Award, BAFTA, and not win the Oscar, and that was Russell Crowe, and we all know what happened to him backstage at BAFTA that year. I don't foresee Allison Janney getting in a fight somewhere in the next 10 days, or any of these four, really. I think they might even go into hiding during voting just so they don't say anything wrong. The only thing that I wonder about, because it's an Olympic year, the Oscars are a week later, voting started just yesterday, so it was after BAFTA even happened. I just wonder if there's a little mischief out there, like somebody, enough voters in some category going, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to vote for who I want to vote for. And that might, cause an upset, say, in one of these four, but I don't know. It would probably be one of the two supporting races. I just can't imagine Gary or Frances losing at this stage.
Right.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we've talked before, Frances couldn't be less interested in politicking and courting everything favor the Oscar voters. So she's like, all right, great, thanks, see ya.
That cool factor for her just works for her, though. I mean, she's the Jack Nicholson of actresses. I mean, they love the fact that she doesn't campaign.
Yeah, no, exactly.
All right, so that said, Del Toro wins director, right? We just move on from there. And the screenplay races, Chris, how do you size those up? I've got Billboards and I've got Call Me By Your Name. What do you have?
I think Call Me By Your Name is very safe. It's the only Best Picture nominee in the five. James Ivory's way overdue for an Oscar himself. He'd be the oldest winner ever, unless Agnes Varda wins documentary that same night. She's a few days older than him. But anyway, the other one, though, wow. I think for the longest time, it was like a four-way race, and we couldn't figure out where it was going to go with Lady Bird, and also even like Shape of Water. If you think Shape of Water is going to win picture, maybe you think it'll win screenplay too. But I do think it's down to three Billboards and Get Out now. I can't foresee something beating both of them. And I switched over to Get Out a couple of days ago. I just think,
wow.
I'll just talk about the cool factor. I think Jordan Peele is the cool factor right now. I think they want to give him something, and they're not going to give him director. And I don't think it's winning picture, so he's not going to get it as a producer. So I'm switching over.
I like that logic, Chris, of when, you've got to give a movie something. And that's why I thought Lady Bird would win, because I thought, well, Saoirse Ronan's not going to win for actress, and now that Laurie Metcalf isn't going to win for supporting actress, that Greta Gerwig would get the win there, but I don't see it happening now. I'm with Tom. I think it's three Billboards. I think McDonough got snubbed for director, but it really is a beautiful film, which is based on a great script. I mean, just the fact he tackles those themes and does it with such pungent dialogue and profane and so darkly funny yet ultimately serious. I think it really is a script that hits all those notes, and it's flashy, and it gives those actors something to chew on. I think it helps the fact it's going to win for actress and supporting actor. But I hear your point on Get Out. It would be unorthodox, but not unsurprising if Jordan Peele ends up winning.
That could definitely happen. But I'm with the Three Billboards thing here. If there's one, there are two outstanding qualities of that movie. It's the script and the acting, and that's where it's been performing so well. Let's run through any kind of these other categories before we get to Best Picture. Best Song. Do either of you guys have a very strong opinion about that? Because This Is Me is by far the most amazing anthem, and it's the best song by far. But Remember Me is probably a song with a much more visibility. Usually the best song loses. The really best song, almost always. Look what won last year, City of Stars. But where do you guys stand? Best song?
Tom, I think they love Sentiment, and you're right with Remember Me and Coco. If you've seen the movie, which I think is going to win for animated feature, and it's a really beautifully made movie, and that song is really, the moment that all the tearjerkers start to get swept up in. And on its own, it does sound shamelessly sentimental, manipulative, but in the film, it's a beautiful moment when Grandma starts remembering, all of the happened in her past. So I think it's going to be Remember Me, and I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Wow.
I don't know if it's safe. You've been following Adnan, the Olympics coverage on NBC. They've used "This Is Me" a lot as the one of the promotional songs.
True.
It's such an anthem, and it's about outsiders, fitting into society, fitting into the world. But as I told Tom on the phone the other day, when you've got an upbeat song versus a ballad, and that's kind of your choice. In terms of picking, you always go with the ballad, or always go with the slow song if it's not a ballad. They always seem to choose that. So I think it's going to be Remember Me, and it's used. It's not just an end credit song in Coco. It's used all throughout the movie. In fact, when we interviewed the Lopez's in the office a few days ago, they talked about this was the first time they'd ever worked on a movie. The first time Pixar had ever commissioned the song and then built the movie around the song. Can you believe that?
Wow.
You mentioned the Olympics, Chris. Anything will be better than Fergie's rendition of the Star Spangled Banner at the recent NBA All-Star game. Okay,
I think she's going to sing "Remember Me" on the Oscars. I heard.
Whoa! Disaster. With Rob.
I think I speak both about another category that I'm just having fits over, and that's visual effects. I think it's only one of two things. It's either War for the Planet of the Apes, which is won the Visual Effects Society, or it's Blade Runner. What Tom? What do you have there?
I don't even know what I had there, but I picked Blade Runner for BAFTA. Thank goodness. Or no, I didn't. I picked. Yes, I did. I got it right there. What do you think, Adnan?
I'm going Apes there. I think that. I don't know. I don't have concrete evidence behind it, but just a feeling that type of makeup, makeup obviously is a part of it, but those visual effects I think will be rewarded in that category. I have Deakins winning, obviously, 14th nomination, finally getting through for cinematography. For some reason, I just don't see Blade Runner winning more than one. I think they spread the wealth a little bit. So I think Apes gets visual effects, and I think that cinematography will be Blade Runner and Deakins.
I switched off of Planet of the Apes. You love sports, Adnan. I felt like Charlie in the football here, and all of a sudden, because it always would win. The other two earlier movies would win at visual effects, but he would not win at the Oscars. He just won at visual effects. So I wonder if they just want to go with the sci-fi route. The one thing we don't have here, usually on a category, if you're really debating, you'll go with like a Best Picture nominee, figuring it's just got more support. But all five in visual effects are not Best Picture nominees. It's kind of an odd category. And I'm not 100% certain anymore on Roger Deakins for cinematography. I know you said that was a slam dunk, but their names are not on the ballot. And the only names that are on the ballot are in acting. So I just wonder if, I don't know that the studio or the campaigners have really effectively gotten the word out, that he has that this will give him his first Oscar. And the one that's got me intrigued, I think it's 5 years in a row that director and cinematography had gone together. So are we overlooking Shape of Water here for cinematography?
Yeah, it is a beautifully shot film, and you're right, there is something to that. Another category that I think is interesting is original score. I do think it's going to be Alexander Desplat for The Shape of Water, who has had success so far in the run-up to it. But I do think Johnny Greenwood's score to Phantom Thread is amazing. And if you like the backstory of the fact he's a Radiohead guitarist, worked with Paul Thomas Anderson before There'll Be Blood, maybe a potential upset there, but I do think it'll be. And, by the way, Hans Zimmer, who has won before for Dunkirk, and the fact that Christopher Nolan used his score in 65-70% of that movie, I actually think that should be a closer race than it is, even though I think Desplat's going to win.
I've got him winning too. I've not seen anybody, and I mean anybody, maybe Allison Janney, on the campaign circuit more than Desplat. He became my buddy over the last few months. I would see him everywhere.
And
if there's a third grader in Anchorage who wants an interview, he's going to be saying yes.
Desplat has been really on the ground campaigning actively for the last few years, and it paid off recently, of course.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Best Picture here. My God, it was just a week ago when the vast majority of Oscarologists among our experts said Shape of Water, Shape of Water. And now since BAFTA, there's this run on Three Billboards, but we know it has problems. Three Billboards is not nominated for Best Directing at the Oscars. Usually that sinks something. Adnan, what wins Best Picture and why?
Tom, I kept using my man Chris Beachum's logic. I was using it on all my ESPN platforms. I said it's going to be Lady Bird because, as Chris said to us last time, nobody hates it. Some people love it, and at worst, they like it. So if you take the cumulative vote, just like Moonlight last year, it'll tally it up. And now I think, as good as I like Chris's logic, I don't think Lady Bird is going to win. I think too many people say, listen, it's a good movie, but this is awfully slight subject matter to have this mother-daughter story be Best Picture. So it's not going to be that one. Shape of Water, obviously the Producers Guild Award, I liked that aspect of it, and I thought that would be why, obviously with the run-up to it, and obviously Directors Guild as well. But I look back at the Screen Actors Guild Award, and if they give it to Three Billboards, the actors are the biggest branch of the Academy. I think it's going to be Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I think that undercurrent of backlash of people saying, oh, I don't like the fact that this racist character of Sam Rockwell is redeemed by the end, this guy who engages in police brutality. I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's enough of that backlash to really, ultimately knock it out. You're right about McDonough not being nominated for director, hurting it. But just like Argo winning, I think Three Billboards this time wins without a Best Director nomination.
Up until BAFTA, there was really nasty backlash against Three Billboards in Hollywood. Wherever I would go and just chit-chat with industry people, boy, all of a sudden there was this angry backlash against this movie that was vaguely reminiscent of the La La backlash in the home stretch there. And right. And the anger is based on that the character who is believed to be the rapist killer, and that subplot pisses people off, and the finale pisses people off. And that's why it's a great movie. It's supposed to do all those things. But right. Those are two, in a way, minor aspects compared to the genius of the whole movie. And I was really shocked by the negativity I was hearing suddenly in those 3 weeks before BAFTA. And now I think I haven't been out. I'm in New York now instead of LA. I'm not on the ground out there, but I think that all of a sudden the tide has shifted, and now that's the cool movie. Now all of a sudden there's a rush over to it, and it happened before the ballots. So I think that's a very, very compelling point. But Chris, you've actually been talking to voters. What are you hearing?
They're kind of all over the map. I mean, I've heard Shape of Water. I've heard Three Billboards. Usually when they say Three Billboards, they rank it first, though. They're not ranking it in the top three, let's say. It's either their favorite or it's a little further down. That's the one reason I've still got Shape of Water. I still might switch if I keep talking to people and hearing more things. But I do think it's divisive. And the only other group that has the preferential ballot for a Best Picture is PGA, and they went with Shape of Water. Now, PGA's not been right recently. Forever, you could bank on the PGA winner winning Best Picture at the Oscars. So I'm not, every which way we turn, there's a problem of some sort or another. So I don't know which problems to believe and which ones not to believe. But for the moment, I've still got Shape of Water.
And Adnan, what do you have for right now? Adnan, what do you have right now?
I've got it. I got to check right now. I think I had a Shape of Water, but I'm going to flip it to Three Billboards. But I was going to ask both you guys if the knock against Three Billboards, which we all understand, what's the knock against Shape of Water? Is it just too weird, too strange? Mute woman.
I've heard nothing but love for that movie. That's your Ladybird, really. That number 2 or number 3 vote where people go, oh, I love it, because she's a misfit times 5. You know, she's a mute, she's a woman. She's a maid, just the lowly worker hierarchy there at the job. I'm going to turn that phone off.
It's okay.
But everybody in the movie is a misfit, and I think everybody in the movie is a misfit, Adnan. I think that everybody in life, unless you're Meryl Streep or somebody, you feel like you're a misfit. So I think that might help it out as well. It's so hard to predict because I've been wrong on Best Picture like 3 years in a row. I just am desperate to get this one right.
It's the worst, right? You can have an incredible amount of actors and people go, oh man, how about Beachum screwing up Best Picture? You can't win.
That could be 23 for 24 next Sunday night, and they'll say, "What you missed Best Picture."
I won't say who, but several of our most famous pundits were wrong 3 years in a row for Best Picture. 3 years in a row. I've stopped keeping score like that. It was, but it's been a head scratcher these last few years. And the thing that really scares me is what Chris just said, when that is Billboards is your number 1 or it's way down. And boy, people love that movie and they admire that movie, but they hate the storyline and they hate the anger of it. And it's not huggable. And they don't like the structure or the lack of structure and the bizarre aspect of characters. Suddenly, you thought this one was bad, and now this one's good, and this one was good, and this one's bad. How the McDonough just screws with your head in a wonderful way, but there's just so much of that.
Yeah, but you're right, Tom. Those that love it, it's for those exact reasons. Like I walked out of that theater and I said, it's not late November. I said, that's the best picture I'm going to see this year for all those reasons you said. It's so audacious. The best word I can use to describe it is ferocious. And for some, they don't like that ferocity, but I appreciate and loved it.
It reminds me of a Coen Brothers movie, which is odd since Frances McDormand's the star, and we are on the 10th anniversary of No Country for Old Men winning. So I know voters don't think about things like that, but sometimes just you look back in hindsight and you go, how do we not see things lining up like we, like that?
The thing that Billboards has going for it is at the Globes, at SAG, at BAFTA, it consistently overperformed in very impressive ways. Well, look, when Three Billboards won Best British Film, come on, this hillbilly movie with starring Donald Trumpsters people. I mean, come on. But the love for the movie is so huge. Now, that's not been consistently. We don't see a lot of love. I think it's only 1-2 guilds or something. We're not seeing consistent love for it elsewhere. I thought it was going to do very well at the Film Critics Awards, like New York and LA early on. It did not. So it disappoints where you think it's going to be particularly strong. But boy, those 3 awards with diverse voting bodies and many Oscar voters within their ranks, it's overperformed over. And I think the lack of a nomination for director at the Oscars can be explained away by the fact that it's they just don't know that guy. He's that kooky UK guy who writes plays on Broadway.
And you mentioned the BAFTAs, Tom. How about the death knell there for anybody who thought Dunkirk had a chance? If Dunkirk can't win at the BAFTAs, if Nolan can't win there, then obviously they have no chance.
The one analogy, and I guess I keep talking myself out of Shape of Water as we the movie I'm thinking about from fairly recent that might be Shape of Water at this year's Oscars if it doesn't win Best Picture is Life of Pi. Life of Pi won director. Right. Very visual movie, won several crafts categories, including score, but just could not. Nobody even considered the fact that it was going to win Best Picture. It wasn't even really a strong contender.
And I keep thinking about the SAGs. I'm telling you, when Crash beat Brokeback Mountain, which I thought was egregious, everything I kept hearing was no, but the actors love it. The actors, the biggest part of the branch, they can appreciate it. So when I see SAG 3 Billboards, even though I know what you're saying, Producers Guild to Shape of Water is big, that's why I lean there.
Well, just keep in mind on SAG Ensemble that in terms of the winner, I mean, I know Shape of Water didn't get in there, which is critical, but they're about 50-50 on their ensemble winners winning picture. They've had everything from The Birdcage to The Help to lots of others that did not go on to win Best Picture. So you can't totally rely on it, but it is a factor.
Well, and now I think it's a damn shame the Birdcage was not up for Best Picture when you tell me that nugget.
It deserved it. It was a great film. And Chris, you had the observation early on. We haven't talked about it recently, but Shape of Water got shut out at the Spirits, Indie Spirits, and those have been predicting the Oscars faithfully the last few years. I realize it's a different voting system they use. I'm pretty sure a juried system for the nominees.
Just a few people pick those nominees. Yeah, very odd though, because at the moment when they were voting, you would have thought they would have said, well, let's make sure like Guillermo's in or Sally's in or something. I will say though, because we kind of got it narrowed down to these two, Three Billboards is not up for picture at the Spirits. It's up for Sally and a couple of other categories, but that's very telling because they've had the Best Picture winner at Spirits match up with Oscars for several years in a row. So either way you go here, unless Get Out comes from nowhere to win the Oscar for Best Picture, you're not going to have the Spirit winner match up this year.
So that said, we don't know what the hell's going on.
Hey, Tom, how many people last year correctly predicted Moonlight on Gold Derby?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Among the experts, it was Sasha Stone and one other person, right?
Matt Adichie, yeah. But even both of them said in a way they didn't really quite believe it was going to happen. It was a protest vote. But Sasha does deserve the credit because she had it there, and even though she was half-hearted with and very cynical with her prediction, she also believed that Lala was really, really vulnerable.
Yeah. No, I guess the people that didn't like it really hated it. Like, that's what I felt with La La Land, right? Those that were enraptured by it and found it emotional. Others said, oh, God, this is just so hokey. Enough.
Yes, very, very.
Last one for you guys. The live-action shorts, which I just finished watching, and the documentary shorts, animation shorts. I've been asked by people, how in the world does GoldDerby.com handicap who are the favorites in these categories? So please, Tom, indulge my fan base.
Well, we just steal everybody else's prediction. We rely on smarty pants like you to have really good predictions, and then we steal them from you. Look, those shorts this year and those all that documentary and the foreign film, they're all awful this year. Awful. And I keep watching another one and another one. I keep going, oh, and I see nothing but reasons not to vote for these things. I don't know.
I'm watching on Body and Soul right now on Netflix, a Hungarian film up for Best Foreign Film, and I'm incredulous how this was nominated as one of the top films of the year. And The Square was baffling to me. Apparently, I missed the boat on that.
You didn't miss anything with The Square. It doesn't even have a plot. I mean, it's
just bizarre. Like, good to see Elizabeth Moss and Dominic West show up, I guess. And then Loveless is supposed to be good. Again, another Russian depressing film. And then the film from Chile, A Fantastic Woman, I think is the favorite, right?
Yes, that's the favorite. And then The Insult is a contender there, right. Which is just, insufferable. But I think Fantastic Woman wins. Not only does it have a great title, but also the story is so simple and she's so appealing that I think it just wins for that reason because you can like it and it's huggable and all that.
And Chris, Kobe Bryant's going to win an Oscar. Dear Basketball is going to win an animated short. John Williams' score, you can't bet against that.
I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I got it in first, but typically on animated short, the one rule we've always seen apply is if there's a cute, cuddly animal in there, like the Bear Story or some of the others, I can't even think of the titles. That is what you go for an animated short. The only one with animals this time is the one with the frogs, though, and the lizards. And I just don't put that in the cuddly animal category. And it has a horrible, not horrible, but it's a very gross ending. I think it's going to turn some people off. So I don't know that Garden Party is going to win that one. I could see, you know how it is out here. The number one sport out here, even though you have baseball and football, is Lakers basketball. Right. And Kobe's a legend. So, and then he came to the Oscar nominee luncheon. I think there's enough Lakers fans alone to put him over the top, but it's not going to be the best winner of the night. Let me put it that way. It's not anything that you really remember when you finish watching it.
Correct. Yeah, blink and you missed it. 4.5 minutes. Okay, the guy loves basketball. Moving on.
And it reads like a commercial, a bad commercial too. I know, but it's I don't know what to do there.
ABC would love that moment, though. If they could get him on stage accepting an Oscar, they would fall all over themselves with joy.
I was going to say easy to package. And best live action short. Heaven is a traffic jam on the 405. Speaking of titles, Tom, good title or a terrible title?
Yeah, I think we might all slightly disagree with the premise of that. But yeah, I think that a lot of people like it. It just takes forever to get to the point of what this thing is about. And it's up against what Eddie and Edie and that too, you know, a half an hour into it, and you finally go, oh, that's what this is about. If they stick with it, you know, if they stick with it, I think, I don't know. It's between those.
I think it's going to be Edith and Eddie. I watched all 5. I already had that in my first slot, but then I watched everything, and it's the most sentimental of the 5. And that's another lady, the director of that, Laura, I can't think of her last name. She has really been on the ground working hard, and you don't see that often from the shorts people. Yeah. But she has really been out there. So I think, you know, not as many people vote in the shorts categories. If they haven't seen them, they don't vote. So I think the margin of needed to get an actual victory in a shorts category is not nearly as much as it is, you know, say in Best Picture.
But it's interesting for us. It's critical because that can be the defining moment on GoldDerby.com.
I know it is. You live or die based on these things, and you got to admit, you know, Heaven is a traffic jam on the 405 is a great kick-ass title. It's just really.
Well, like we talked about Kobe, the people that live in Los Angeles would go, I'm voting for the one that says 405 because that they just identify with that.
This is how the award that hails the greatest movies of all time are chosen, unfortunately.
Well, you know, for years before I had access to watching shorts, you know, for say the 90s and 2000s, I would rule out anything I thought was hard to pronounce. I thought they're just not going to go with that. And anything that had like a really cool title, I went with that, and usually I'd be 2 out of 3.
That used to be my Grammy strategy. Anything with beautiful in the title, if it's up for album of the year, you know, song of the year, anything, it just would win. So just pick the most upbeat title.
So that helps Fantastic Woman. That's why you think that's
again a very good title.
Well, thanks everybody. We're going to do lots more chats with lots of the experts and editors, and try to give you all kinds of reasons to jump in and make predictions over the next few days.
Yeah, thanks to you both, Tom, Chris. It's been such a blast here. You know, I met Miles Teller recently, and he goes, how'd you get on GoldDerby.com? Like, Miles Teller is curious as to my credentials. I know you're a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, but come on.
Of all the things he could have asked you about, like, you know, your appearances on ESPN and the rest of it, was how did you get on Gold Derby? I love it.
Credit to you both. Thank you very much.